All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode here of Setting the Pace, your go-to Pacers podcast. I'm your host, Alex Golden. The Indiana Pacers lose by 11 points to the red-hot Philadelphia 76ers, who get their 8th straight victory in a row. Here to talk with me about this 137-126 loss is the great birthday boy week, Michael J. Facci. Facci, how's it going, man?
The week is upon us, and I think there's going to be better highlights in the week than tonight. Here's the thing: I'm not mad, I'm not sad, hurt, embarrassed, or anything like that with this loss. Philadelphia 76ers are playing some really, really good basketball, and I thought the Pacers showed some heart tonight because this one looked ugly in the first quarter, and it could have gotten way worse from there. Pacers managed to crawl all the way back, take that lead, which surprised me. But in the end, hey, it's too much because, hey, Philly, they got Embiid, the reigning MVP, and they got a star in the making in Tyrese Maxey, who was fantastic tonight.
Yeah, star in the making is one way to put it when a guy drops 50 points on the Pacers. That's back-to-back games the Pacers are giving up 50 points to another opponent. Not a great thing to see. But if you look at it from this perspective, aside from Embiid and Maxey, they had 87 of the 137 for Philadelphia. I thought Indiana did a good job limiting their role players. There were some guys I felt like Batum hit some tough shots. I felt like there's other guys like Melton hit some tough shots. Tobias Harris had an okay game, but he scored under his average, I believe. So to me, it was one of those games where the Pacers really just struggled defensively to stop Tyrese Maxey. I don't really know what the correct, defensive response is to that when the guy's hitting step back threes and just pretty much everything he threw up was going in. I mean, he's just having an incredible start to the season. And Joel Embiid, he didn't have to do as much because Maxey was so dominant, but even Joel was dominant in his own way. And this is just one of those matchups for the Pacers that it's never been good since they've had Embiid. And I will say this, I want to give Miles Turner some credit tonight because I felt like after the first quarter, I would say, he really did change the style in which he played. He came out strong in that third quarter, and I thought he had some really nice moments. The officiating was questionable all night. It felt like the Pacers were not getting the 50-50 calls when it came to fouls, but I don't think that's why we lost the game. They were just that much better with those two guys leading the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about those two guys shouldered the load for Philly, and you never want one guy to beat us. That nearly happened against Milwaukee, but kind of showed that it's hard for one guy to really beat a team in the NBA, but two can very well happen. That's what we saw tonight. Here's the thing. Embiid had 26 at halftime.
Yeah.
Maxey was right around there at 25. So, yeah, Embiid finishes with 37, but, Turner did do a better job in the second half, and Turner got it going in that third quarter, which was a big quarter for the Pacers. But overall, in my opinion, why we lost this game is the 76ers grabbed 22 more rebounds, which led to 15 more shots attempted. And if you want to break it down even further, they had a 23-8 advantage on the offensive glass. That is huge. I don't know who you can beat if you're being out-rebounded by 22.
It was kind of weird because it was 22-7 when I looked at it, and then the Sixers got 2 offensive rebounds on the same possession, but they didn't count one, I guess. Not sure what happened there. So I thought they had 24, but still 15 extra possessions on the offensive side of things. I mean, that's the difference in the game. Three-pointer wise, Indiana ended up having 2 more than Philly. Free throw wise, it was only 16-17, so it wasn't a big difference there, but the Pacers did all right scoring in the paint. They had 58 points. They didn't get obliterated. They got outscored by 12 points in the paint, but that's pretty good to me considering who they were playing against. So 70 points in the paint, I don't know if that's too high or not, but it's just like that. We got Embiid, when you got guys their length was huge tonight. I felt like Philadelphia's length did bother the Pacers a little bit, but what I thought really changed the game for the Pacers was, number one, the speed in which they started playing with after like the first 8 minutes, and then TJ McConnell coming into the game in the second quarter. Indiana really was struggling with that bench unit. Nembhard had 3 straight turnovers to start his time in the game. They put in TJ McConnell, and TJ McConnell really just gave this team a spark that it needed. Finished the game as a +10. He was +16 by the end of the third quarter, and then he was out there for a little bit of a Philly run that, kind of damaged his +16 to a +10, but still, for him to be a +10 in 17 minutes, that tells you like how impactful McConnell was in this game.
Still is. I mean, he still got it. 3 steals, 8 points, got a block. I mean, it's just McConnell. he's a spark plug. I mean, at one point he was getting down low trying to knock the ball out of Embiid's hands. It's just he's pesky. It's what he does. But yeah, I just thought for tonight, you don't want to say like, oh, you know what, we let one go. We had a lead in the fourth. It's like this is a Philly team that just beat Boston about a week ago. Boston beat us by 51. So I thought the Pacers played Philly. I'm not going to say played them well. I think they played them pretty rough in the beginning of the game, and then by the time they really caught up, I mean, if you take out that first quarter, I think the Pacers really played a good game.
Mhm.
But obviously, basketball is 4 quarters. A few other stats in this: second chance points. I mean, Philly outscored the Pacers 30-10. Fast break points 18-5. So I just felt like they had those type of advantages, despite the Pacers shooting well from three. The free throw, battle was very similar, like you said. Another thing, look at this. Our starting five had 16 rebounds. Embiid had 13. That can't happen. One man can't almost out-rebound your whole starting five. So, it starts with, I don't say it starts with crashing the glass, but against a team like Philly, you can't give them extra opportunities because they made the Pacers pay for it.
No, they did. I mean, they were just active. And like I said, their length really bothered the Pacers, and the Pacers were kind of in scramble mode. I think that's what allowed them to get more offensive rebounds, is because with Maxey being hot, they were paying extra attention to him. And then you got Joel Embiid. Being Joel Embiid, you got to pay extra attention to him, which allows for other guys to have opportunities to get involved in the game, whether it's being effective on the glass or getting open looks or whatnot. That's where it kind of came down to me. But I got to say, I love the Pacers fight in this game. I'm not trying to sit here and be a homer or anything like that, but to lose this game by 11, yeah, Philly ended up pulling it out, but this Pacers team was down big early. They clawed their way back, and like you said, they got a 1-point lead in the fourth quarter. Like, this team was not going away, and you really have to think about it. Philadelphia probably had to play one of their best games of the season from Maxey and Embiid to put this Pacers team away. I don't think that this game is going to be anywhere close to a blowout by Philly on Tuesday. I think this is going to be another dogfight. And if you're a Pacer fan right now, I would say this. Your team is 6-4. This was a game against one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, actually the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. And they gave them a run for their money there for a little bit. You have to feel confident about the direction this Pacers team is heading for the way they performed in this game. I mean, yeah, defensively, they're going to have to get better. We know that this defense is not great, but overall, they're not afraid of anybody, and their depth is their strength. Because if you can pull, we've talked about it. If Rick Carlisle can pull in his back pocket a TJ McConnell, and TJ McConnell can go out there and be a plus 10 for a game like this, when you need someone that knows the Philly environment, knows his team like the back of their hand, that's just an added bonus. This Pacers team will get better. They'll continue to improve, and I don't know. I don't feel bad about this game, like you said. I just feel pretty solid about where this team is heading based on how they started the game out and how they were able to just to claw their way back into it.
Yeah, there was that moment where the Pacers were down. I think they were down as much as 19 points at one point. I mean, it was getting ugly, and I just went, all right. We could see the difference in the upper echelon of the East, and then where we're at in that 3-4 spot. There's a big difference between Boston, Philly, then us. And then for the Pacers to fight and I'm not going to say nearly pull one out, but having a lead in the fourth quarter, because that lead was at like the 10:45 mark. So it's not like this was they let one slip in the final minute or so. It showed me enough to be like, okay, great, we're going to play them on Tuesday, just like you mentioned. I'd have a big problem if Maxey drops 50 on us again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now they'll make adjustments. That's one of the perks of being able to play a team again in such a short span. Hey, get a little bit of rest, but at the same point, you're gonna see them. Some adjustments to make, and I think that right now you're gonna get a better game out of a Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard. I think that those two, they had rough showings today. I think that, what answer are you really going to have for a guy like Tyrese Maxey, who tonight, let's not just say this was a good night. This was his best game in the NBA. This was a career high.
Yeah.
By all means, this might have been the best game that he has played in his career. And, he'll have plenty of other games, but I don't think he's going to drop another 50 ball on us. So, Alex, what are you really looking for if we're going to make some adjustments maybe for the next game?
Yeah, I think they got to just consider double teaming him, trapping him, getting the ball out of his hands, paying more attention to detail with him. Like, he shot the ball incredibly well from three. I think it was 7 of 11 tonight. So just incredible shooting for him. Look, guys are going to get hot sometimes. And the step back that he had on Ben Mathurin in the second quarter was just like, okay. And I think even Quinn Buckner was like, when a guy's making shots like that, all you can do is shake his hand and keep moving because that's a great shot. I mean, he was just feeling it tonight. I think that if they're able to find a way to kind of double team him, and one thing I didn't like, I think it was Bruce Brown left Maxey to help double team Embiid or something like that. You can't leave Maxey to double team Embiid. You have to find somebody else to leave and help double team Embiid. It was just one play that stood out to me on that one, but it's like Embiid's going to be good what he does, but he's like a slower paced guy. I honestly think when it comes to Maxey, you just got to stay in front of him, hope he misses shots. And maybe you do throw some double teams at him, throw some traps at him, just try to get the ball out of his hands a little bit. Maybe guard him full court to wear him out a little bit more, kind of like how we saw Milwaukee try to do that to Indiana in the second and third quarters on that game Thursday night. But I think with Embiid, Miles is not as big as Embiid. So Embiid's going to bully him down low. But I think that Miles did a pretty good job of drawing him out to the three-point line on the other side of the basketball. And when the Pacers started playing them with a much faster pace once McConnell came in the game, that's when I think it sped up the 76ers and got them kind of out of their rhythm. The Sixers ended up going to a 2-3 zone, trying to slow Indiana down because Indiana was getting out and running so well. So I think you'll probably see a little bit more of that from Philadelphia trying to slow Indiana's offense down because we are an offensive powerhouse. Everybody knows that about us. So I would just say continue to make these guys work on the defensive end because, look, Joel Embiid likes to drop a lot, and this Pacers team like to shoot a lot of threes. So if I'm Tyrese Haliburton, I'm trying to run a little bit more pick and roll or pick and pop with whoever Embiid is guarding. That way I can kind of take advantage of him and wear him out a little bit more by putting him in more actions. I think that's a smart way to do it. I think Obi Toppin told Jeremiah Johnson before the game, you got to be physical with him. But I also think just constantly putting him in pick and roll action, it's going to put him in a spot where he's either going to have to step up where Tyrese can go around him, or, if he drops, Tyrese can shoot threes over him because he's got the space. So I think that they need to do a little bit better job of attacking him on that end and wearing him out so he's not as effective on the offensive end.
That's a great point. I mean, look, anytime you can wear him out, that would be awesome. I think that, hey, Embiid, someone who's had the Pacers number for years, I think that's the guy over the last, 5 years or so, that I think that when you're playing the 76ers, you go, okay, Joel Embiid, man. And Turner, to your point, he did everything he could, but it's just Embiid is just such a force down there that it was getting physical. He's 8 offensive rebounds. 8. No knock on Turner at all because Turner's been awesome this year. We're gonna finish the game with 5 total rebounds. Embiid had 8 on the offensive side alone. So I don't know who there's no one-on-one that's gonna stop Embiid. And when I say stop, I mean, even holding them below 25 would be really impressive. But he finishes this game at 37. And for Haliburton, I think we're going to need a pretty aggressive Tyrese Haliburton. I think Haliburton, 17 assists tonight to 0 turnovers. I think it really gets lost in the shuffle of how unbelievable that is. I mean, wow. But just 14 shots. He made 9 of them. So 9 of 14, obviously on the box score, that's fantastic. 25 and 17 out of your point guard. That's incredible. But you look on the other side of things, Tyrese Maxey gets up 32 shots. So it's more than double what Haliburton got up. So we might need Haliburton to be pushing perhaps a little bit closer to maybe 20 shots next game against Philly.
Yeah, but you got to realize the 17 assists probably does balance that out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Getting other guys involved, finding guys in the right spots.
I mean, 17 assists is that's got to be the most in the NBA this year, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't looked at it. That's what I'm saying. I'd be surprised if someone had more than 17. It just stinks when that type of stat line gets lost in the shuffle because it is a loss to Philly. Yeah. Instead of highlighting, look what Haliburton did, 25 and 17 to 0 turnovers. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at it this way, even if everything that he assisted to was a 2, which we know was not the case, that's 34 points that were added because of Haliburton's passing at minimum. So you add those 34 points to the 25 that he scored, that's 59 points. Now, I guarantee some of those are 3-pointers, so you're looking at maybe 65 plus, probably 65 to 75 points.
Yeah.
That Tyrese Haliburton was responsible for the Pacers with what they scored. So it's just it's an egregious number. When you look at it, and like you said, it does get lost in the shuffle, unfortunately, because it was a loss. And Haliburton was kind of quiet early on, and then he kind of came to life in that second quarter, third quarter. So It's just tough because Tyrese Haliburton's so good that when you see him play, sometimes you just kind of expect that. Like, not saying 17 assists is normal, but it's not abnormal for him to put up 17 assists. So Tyrese Haliburton, special player. We know that for a fact. But I think there's a case you could make that both the Tyreses should be the starting 1-2 for the Eastern Conference right now.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think it's like the common thing. Two people tweeted at me like, "You got the wrong Tyrese." It's like, I'm happy with my Tyrese. All right, I like mine very.
They're both
much.
good.
They're both very good, and that's fine. That's great. There's allowed to be more than one Tyrese. That's very talented, in the NBA. For Maxey, I think he's probably the guy that benefits the most of like why you move on from a James Harden, because it's like now Tyrese Maxey can absolutely blossom. He's headed towards a max contract. Great for him. Man, Philly, it's almost like we would have been better served if James Harden was still on that team, because look at the Clippers right now. I think they're
0-4.
0-4 with Harden. Like, he airballed a clutch shot tonight, and it's just like his like the energy that he was bringing was just off. For the Sixers, I know when he was on the bench, I think that was the game that they lost, when 0-1 or whatever it was. Maybe he didn't show up for that game. So regardless, Philly is in a good spot. But I think for the Pacers, we're also in a good spot. And I don't want to dwell on this. This is not by any means in that category of like losing to Charlotte or Chicago. Oh, no. You played a Philly team really good for, a decent chunk of the game. And I'm very excited to see what we do making those adjustments. Could we, A, squeak one out? B, could this be a game that comes down to the final minute or two instead of, really like outside of the 10:45 mark when we took the lead? I mean, after that, I feel like it was hard to even get it within 5.
Yeah, they went back and got a quick 5-0 run. As immediately after that, they hit a 2 and then a 3 by Patrick Beverley in front of the Pacers bench. And it was like, man, every bit of momentum that we just got there felt like it was just sucked right out of us. But you're right about James Harden. I mean, I think with Philadelphia, this was more of an addition by subtraction. Mm-hmm. By being able to get competent role players like a Robert Covington, like a Nicholas Batum, with this young group of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, because I think the NBA, while we're used to seeing big threes for a while now, it's kind of gone down to like, dynamic duos across the league with, really good role players sprinkled in there. So I do think that Tyrese Maxey is going to be unlocked quite a bit this year without James Harden kind of holding them back by being more of a ball dominant guard. So, James Harden, I don't want to knock him too much. I mean, everybody's knocking him right now. It's the easy thing. It's the easy thing to do with him. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there are flaws in the style that he does play. And Tyrese Maxey is a young player that's ready to prove to the world that he belongs, and he's trying to put his, stamp of approval on the NBA critics. So he wants their stamp of approval is what I'm trying to say. So quick note here for you, Facci, from StatMuse. Most games with 15 assists and 0 turnovers over the last 5 seasons. Haliburton, number 1 with 4. Number 2, Chris Paul with 3. Nobody else has done it multiple times.
I mean, look at that category, because it's like a couple of years ago we talked about how do we find our Chris Paul? If not, could we even get Chris Paul? I remember we were talking about those scenarios. I mean, this might have been 4 or 5 years ago, but it's just like Chris Paul over the last 20 years is like the gold standard of what you're looking for in a point guard. Not a scoring guard who's going to, someone who's going to give you 20 points, but like someone who's really going to facilitate the whole entire offense. And I think that Tyrese Haliburton, you could probably make a whole argument that Tyrese is the Chris Paul of like 2020 and on, like that decade or the next generation or anything of that sort. And I mean, I love it because this is a taller Chris Paul, a really good shooter, one who I think that his vision, I mean, you could even, I don't want to say better by any means because Chris Paul is a Hall of Famer. It's just a great category to be in when you compare those two in any situation.
For sure. Yeah, so this was a tough one, like you said, but I do want to give one more shout out to, like, because I feel like his play was a little bit lost in the shuffle. I thought Obi Toppin looked pretty good tonight, Facci. He had some nice plays. Like, it wasn't anything that like stood off the page, but like started the game off with the alley-oop dunk. It was a bad pass by Bruce Brown. He was still able to finish it. He had a nice reverse dunk on Joel Embiid that made SportsCenter top 10 probably. I mean, 6 of 7 from the field. And one thing I thought he did a really good job of was defending Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris did not get going at all. I think he had like 10 points when Obi Toppin, before Obi Toppin got subbed out in the third quarter for Aaron Neesmith. I don't know if he even went back in the game or not, but I thought he did a good job kind of maintaining him because we've had we've had Tobias Harris go off against the Pacers several times because of our lack of power forward depth. I thought Obi Toppin's athleticism and size was a little bit more of a not a struggle, but more of a good defense against Tobias Harris and what we had seen previously with guys we had thrown at him before. So, trying to kind of being able to control him a little bit, holding the 16 points is pretty good. It's just like you said, 87 points from their big two does kind of impact Tobias's overall play. But I just thought Obi had a decent game tonight. 6 of 7 from the field, had some threes, like pretty solid night.
No, pretty solid. One, I guess maybe to play a little devil's advocate, one thing that's kind of annoyed me a little bit is Obi Toppin in his last 3 games has 2 rebounds combined.
Yeah.
2 in 3 games. That can't happen. I think that he's got the size that it's like, I think at minimum, I mean, you got to be able to give 3 rebounds a night. I feel like this is someone that coming into the year we were hoping for. Could he push for 6 rebounds per game?
Yeah.
You just can't have nights where you had 1 or 0 rebounds, especially on a night where the Pacers got crushed on the glass. I just feel that, about a week or two ago, Obi had 8 rebounds in a game. Mm-hmm. So it's like he can be a better rebounder. So that's something I want to see. And just collectively for this unit, I want to see, more effort on the glass because it is a little inconsistent, I feel like. And on a night like tonight, that was a major difference. I mean, if the Pacers get out rebounded by maybe 10, it's a totally different game, But you get out rebounded by over 20 rebounds, you're not beating anybody.
Yeah, and to defend Obi Toppin a little bit, I will say this: if you go back and watch a Bucks game, he was not very good in that game. Got in foul trouble early, was no match for Giannis, obviously. So I just felt like Obi in that game was kind of a wash, and you didn't really even know much about what he did in that game. But I will say in this game tonight, I just don't know if the opportunities were there for him to be impactful rebounding-wise, depending on where he was defensively. I would need to go back and really rewatch the minutes he played to see where he was at, to see if he was even in position to really get those rebounds or not. Maybe there were a few times he could have gotten one. Yeah, when you look at a box score, you see one rebound, you're like, yeah, he could do better. But if he's defending Tobias Harris, who's spreading out to the three-point line, and he's not really crashing the glass, then how much is it like his fault for not being impactful on that side of the ball? Yeah. So, it always does kind of.
I hear you. It's just like that was this game, but now we're talking.
I'm just saying this game.
Yeah. No,
like I said, and he could have just missed some. Like I'm not saying that I'm totally like against what you're saying, but I'm also just wondering maybe he wasn't in the right spot for that. So, any final thoughts on the game, Facci?
My final thoughts are just like, guys, the sky's not falling. We're going to lose more games. That is a guarantee. We're going to win more games too. That's a guarantee. It can't just be that if the Pacers don't, rip off like a 5 to 10 game winning streak, there's a problem. Start trading. Nope. This was a good test. We need tests. There's plenty tests that we're going to pass. There's tests, unfortunately, we're going to fail. Tonight, I'm not calling it a fail. I think this is probably about a B minus, C plus. This is it showed some good things, some other areas to work on and improve. And I feel that this Pacers team is going to come out. They're going to be looking to rebound and also defend next time because, the 126 points you scored, cool. You can't give up about 140 in the NBA and expect to win. It's just, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they do have to get better defensively. So offensively, though, I mean, they still put up a pretty good amount of points despite their first quarter of only 27. So you got to love that. Now, let me ask you this, Facci. When is your birthday exactly?
November 17th, this Friday.
This Friday. Okay, so I know that you're going to be out for a little bit this week, have some busy things going on. So I wanted to go ahead and get you a little early present here for the podcast. Everybody likes a traditional birthday song, but I thought I would change it up and give you a special birthday song. I don't know if you want me to save it for Thursday or if you want to hear it tonight.
Maybe save it for Thursday when it's closer to my birthday. I think that'll
save it?
Feel more like my birthday, within 24 hours.
All right. Well, the listeners, I'm giving you a tease because I have got a classic song all about Facci here written. I worked on it today. My wife heard it. She was loving it.
Man. All right. Wow. Well,
I will just say there is a classic commercial jingle that I'm using to sing this song to. So I'm not going to spoil anything else, but that is the extent of it right there. So
You got
think
people
of
on the edge of their seat right now for this to be continued cliffhanger over here. But everybody, that's why you got to tune in again, because Thursday is apparently when this song is going down. If you're not watching on YouTube, Alex has a ear to ear smile right now, so
I love
you
it.
just know that something is up his sleeve.
Oh
But
yeah.
you're gonna have to tune back in to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. So this Tuesday night, I'll be back with a guest to recap the Pacers 76ers in-season tournament game, and Facci will be out. And then on Wednesday, Derek Schultz will be making his monthly appearance on the podcast with me to kind of just talk about the Pacers in their first 11 games of the season. And then Facci will be back on Thursday. We'll have our fan of the week and then kind of preview the Orlando Magic game and the Pacers' upcoming schedule. And maybe we'll throw something else in there as well, just to have some other talking points. You never know what's going to happen throughout the week. But, with that being said, I do want to say it shouldn't be remiss that we don't talk about Kelly Oubre, what happened over the weekend.
Terrible.
Just a horrible situation where he was, I think, hit by a vehicle, and he'll be reevaluated in a week. Hopefully it's not as bad as, maybe they were thinking it might be early on, but I think he had some like bruised ribs or something like that. Broken ribs, right?
Yeah, and bruises and stuff. I mean, just sounds awful. Kelly Oubre, someone who averaged about 20 points per game last year, forced to then sign a minimum contract just because there wasn't the type of market interest that maybe he hoped for. The market wasn't there, and now something like this happens, and it's just like, it's terrible. Obviously, if this was anybody, hey, you're wishing for a speedy recovery. For him, obviously, this is a Philly team that's playing really well. They'd be even better with him on the court. We hope he can return to the court soon, but hey, thank God everything's all right.
Yeah, statistically, he's been their fourth best player. So definitely you can't forget that he was missed tonight. I mean, he is a very good player, and he's really balled out and done a really good job for Philadelphia. So glad he is okay. Glad it wasn't anything too serious, but hoping that everything, he heals up fast and he's able to get back out on the court, because he's having a good year and he deserves that opportunity to go out there and earn a bigger paycheck. But Facci, go ahead and let the people know where they can find us at on social media.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPod STP. You can find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok, Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to youtube.com/Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast, where you can find all of our post-game recap videos on there, maybe some extra videos as well. But we want to thank you all so much for your support. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like watching us, and make sure you give us a 5-star rating and review, whether it's on Apple or Spotify. We always appreciate those, as the more 5-star rating and reviews that we get, the better it is for people to find us that maybe aren't loyal listeners to Setting the Pace. So that is always a great way to get that out there. And I will once again plug the blog, theblueandgolden.substack.com. Make sure you guys check that out for my 10 thoughts. I do a game recap, pointing out some things maybe I don't bring up here on the podcast, as I dive a little bit more into some of the statistical things and just what stood out to me there that I didn't get to on the podcast. So with that being said, Facci, if you're excited for where the Pacers are headed and looking for a nice dish, how do you say it again, Facci?
Old dish revenge.
All right, if you're ready for that.
Best served cold.
Say that one more time. We're butchering this.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
And if you're ready for that to be given to the Philadelphia 76ers on Tuesday night in the in-season tournament game number 2 for the Indiana Pacers, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.